Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the Digits Dynasty Podcast, where we are counting down the greatest athletes to wear each and every uniform number, regardless of the sport, regardless of the league. Today, we are looking at the number 40. I'm here with Curtis, who is on our 40-man roster. How's it going, Curtis?
What's up? So I made the 40-man roster?
I think you made it. I think you're there.
All right, well, we'll see how today's show goes and if I make the 26-man roster.
Yeah, we'll come playoff time. We'll see how you do. Well, glad to have you. I think we got a good number here with the number 40. I feel like not a ton of all-time players that you'd like, oh yeah, that guy was definitely 40. But I think the players that we talk about are going to have some solid resumes.
Yeah, I think the players that wore number 40 definitely wore it with a lot of style. So we have a lot of different types of players at number 40.
Yeah, I feel like when you pick the number 40, you're going outside the box a little bit. It's not a super common number. But it is a number I feel like that will encompass all sports. There's a lot of different guys from every sport that we'll be talking about today.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's one player that maybe stands out above the rest, but it'll be interesting to see who we land on as our favorite.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. So what do you know about the number 40 in general?
Well, the number 40 refers to quite a few things. Did you know the number 40 is the only number that's spelled alphabetically?
I did actually know that one.
Well, I'm guessing you maybe looked it up before the show. I mean, you're from Connecticut. Your schools are pretty good up there.
That's true.
And you're a nerd, so.
Well, that goes without saying. I guess negative 40 degrees Celsius is the same as negative 40 degree Fahrenheit. So.
Yeah, that's pretty chill.
that was good.
40 spaces on the Monopoly board?
It's true. What's the longest Monopoly game you've ever played?
Well, definitely one that I was winning. Any others, if I was not winning, I probably threw a hotel at somebody and went and did something else.
I was going to say, I probably never actually finished a game of Monopoly, like legit. I feel like you kind of get like 6-7 hours in, and finally it's like, all right, I think we're done here.
I mean, when I was younger and didn't have a car and anywhere to go, we would get pretty close to finishing a game of Monopoly. I'd start mortgaging all my properties. Feels a little bit like today, just scraping by.
Less interest rates in Monopoly, though.
True.
40 is the number of thieves that Alibaba clashes with in the Arabian Nights. That's what Aladdin's based off of.
Did know that WD-40, the reason they call it WD-40 is because it took 40 attempts to, get the recipe right.
Yeah, it didn't take them 41 tries. I think they finally got to 40 and they're like, yeah, that's it.
Well, if it took 41, it would be called WD-41.
And if they were a little better at their jobs, they probably could have done like WD-3.
I mean, WD-40, it's like...
It works.
Yeah, I mean, it's super iconic. You're going to find it in every garage in America. A little rusty can on the bottom, a little red straw that comes along with it.
You don't use that to drink it, right?
No. I mean, I'm sure there are some people that have tried, in a dare, but I've never drank WD-40. I don't love the way it smells.
Yeah, it's always right next to the duct tape there in the garage.
Duct tape, WD-40.
That's an all-American
that's all you really need, right?
Last week we talked religion a little bit, but 40 is a pretty common number in the Bible. I guess it basically means a long time. Spent 40 days, 40 nights fasting in the wilderness, tempted by the devil. Great flood, you know how long that was?
40 days, 40 nights.
That's it. And the Jewish people, of course, wandered the desert for 40 years.
40 years in the desert. Well,
that's a long time.
I hope they had some sunscreen.
Probably some SPF 40. Getting into the 40 association with sports, we got the 40-40 Club, not Jay-Z's 40-40 Club restaurant that he owned and mentioned
99 problems?
Dirt Off Your Shoulder.
Well, it's a numbers show, so 40-40. 99 problems.
We'll talk going 55 and a 54. We'll talk that down the road.
Hey, okay.
I think it's closed now, his clubs, but he had all sorts of autographed jerseys, memorabilia. He had the Ali Frazier gloves from the Fight of the Century. It's pretty cool. Signed.
That is cool.
To the real 40-40 Club, which of course is 40 home runs, 40 stolen bases in a single year. Can you name any of those guys?
Well, I definitely know Canseco.
Yeah, I think he was the first one.
Bonds?
Yeah, Barry.
Well, I think his dad missed it by maybe one home run or one stolen base.
Yeah, there were 2 or 3 guys that missed by just 1 or 2 home runs. Vladimir Guerrero was on there, Alfonso Soriano, and Matt Kemp. They all missed by like just 1 or 2 home runs.
Okay. I mean, they're not at Canseco or Bonds level, so, it's okay to keep them out. But pretty crazy that there could have been a father-son combo in a pretty small list of people.
Yeah.
How many are there total then?
There's 5 total. So you got Canseco, you got Bonds. Who else you got?
Cunha?
Yeah. He missed it in 2019 by stolen bases. So he had the 40 home runs, but didn't have, I think he had just under that for stolen bases. But then, last year, 2023, he had the stolen bases. I think he had, 70, 75 stolen bases in addition to the 40 home runs.
Okay. What about Griffey?
Griffey did not make it. I feel like he always had the home run, but not quite the speed for stolen bases.
Okay. Surprised more people didn't do it in the steroid era, when they're bombing 60 home runs a year.
We got A-Rod. He made it.
Steroid era, like I said.
And then Alfonso Soriano was the other one. He missed it one year, but then he did eventually get it.
Did he ever get popped for roids?
I don't think so. I think it was definitely suspicions for a while.
Was that Cano?
I think so.
Okay. But they both played second?
Both played second for the Yankees. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe that was a thing over there. They just had like a little...
I think the Yankees had a little steroid room in their locker room.
And then, of course, have the 40-yard dash in the NFL Combine. What would be your time if you had to do the 40-yard dash?
The 40-yard dash, I'm going to come in at a stellar 5.5.
Be competitive, maybe. What position would you say has the average fastest time?
I mean, one would think receiver, but I would say that probably like a cornerback or a safety.
Yep, you got receiver and cornerback are tied for the fastest at a 4.48 average. The offensive guard, on the other hand, is the slowest position with a 5.37. Still beating you.
5.37? That's wild. These guys are like 400 pounds.
And they're moving.
Can you imagine getting hit by one of those guys running a 5.3?
Right at you.
Oh, man. Didn't somebody break the record this year?
I think they had someone in the 4.2 maybe.
4.18, I thought. 4.2.
Pretty fast. Faster than me.
Well, he'll get paid.
Yeah, they do usually get paid, but I feel like you can't tell me somebody who was in like the top 10 all time and do they have a Hall of Fame career? I feel like there's none of those super speedy guys.
I mean, I couldn't tell you what Dion ran or guys that when you think of, what was Bo's time? I don't know.
I feel like Chris Johnson, he's like the only one I can remember who he had a 2,000-yard rushing year.
Yeah, he had a good couple years stretch. I think he was on the Titans. He had a good couple years stretch where he was, had some long runs. No one could catch him. 40 in general, in sports, usually signals the end of your career. Not too many guys have had super incredible careers post 40. I mean, one comes to mind, and I think he's the obvious one. But yeah, when you turn 40 and you're probably hanging it up. I mean, some golfers have done okay after 40.
True. A little less physical sport there.
Yeah, I think Nicklaus and Tiger both won in their 40s.
I think if you're in one of the contact sports, if you've made it to 40, it's likely that you're going to be at least getting some Hall of Fame mentions.
Yeah, I mean, speaking from experience, when you turn 40, your body doesn't recover from injuries mowing the lawn as quickly as it used to.
I was going to say, you're not playing sports. Speaking of football, though, there are 3 guys, I guess 2 guys that have yards, one that has less than yards. But there's 3 guys who have receiving yards over the age of 40 or have received catches over the age of 40.
Like any yards at all?
Any yards at all. Potentially negative.
Potentially negative yards?
There's one guy on the list that has negative yards. You have more receiving yards than this guy, who's a Hall of Famer, by the way.
Well, I'm going to go with Jerry Rice.
Yeah, he had 2,000 yards, I think just over 2,000 yards receiving after the age of 40.
That's crazy. He's got the most over 40?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with Brady on the little halfback pass or something.
It's a solid 6 yards for him over the age of 40.
Probably could have had more, but he's got some pretty crucial drops.
Don't mention the drop.
In some reasonably big games.
We're not talking about Tom Brady today, all right? When we get to 12...
Well, we've already mentioned him twice, so...
When we get to 12, you can hate on him a little bit more. But today is the number 40. Who's the last guy? This guy has negative yards receiving after the age of 40.
I have no idea.
Brett Favre.
Well, he played till he was like 40, 48.
50?
53.
50? 60?
I mean, he's talking about coming back next year, I heard.
He's waffling, yeah, for sure.
So he has negative yards. How exactly does that happen?
I think he has -2 receiving yards. I assume it's just either maybe like a tip pass that he received.
I was going to say, there's no way coach called that play. They're like, hey, Brett, run a route. You know, you're gray and balding.
Or if it was like a Tom Brady type catch and it's a bad toss, you run backwards a little bit.
Are you blaming Brady's drops on a bad toss now?
No, he had positive yards. I'm not complaining about him.
Okay. All right.
That leads us to players. Any players, general players that you have that wore the number 40 that were notable?
Well, basketball-wise, I think of Shawn Kemp and Bill Laimbeer.
Yeah, 2 great players.
Yeah.
Kemp, of course, Rain Man, just a classic. He was just different. Obviously played through the 90s. He was just so dominant at the end of the 90s. Him and Gary Payton were kind of like the duo there. They were just so good. The way he played the game.
And too bad they lost that series to the Bulls in the finals. I really thought they were probably the best team that the Bulls went up against in their dynasty and really had the best chance of beating them. I know the Jazz got them, back-to-back and lost, but, I just feel like that Sonics team was a little bit more athletic and could match up a little bit better.
Yeah, they were fun to watch. Obviously, him being one of the most vicious dunkers in NBA history.
Oh, that dunk. I love the dunk, and
Lister.
Lister Blister, and he got this pass, from, kind of a cross-court pass, takes a couple steps down the lane and just yokes on top of him and throws him to the ground. The double point.
That's just humiliating.
I think I'm retiring if I'm Lister Blister at that point.
And especially for him, you can't really go in hiding when you're 7 feet tall.
No, there were some guys avoiding that poster. I think it was against the Warriors.
Chris Mullin,
he's kind of stepping out of the lane like, no.
I'll avoid that.
Yeah, I'm not going up against this. And that was a great team. That was in the playoffs, too.
Yeah, Shawn Kemp, not in the Hall of Fame, though. He did not make the Hall of Fame.
Not in the Hall of Fame. That's surprising. I feel like he should be in the Hall of Fame.
He was, I'd say, in those 6 or 7 years that he was super dominant, he was one of the best of his position. I think he kind of fell off after the lockout, 98, 99 there. He kind of dropped off a little bit.
Yeah, and I think he has some off-the-court issues.
He has had some off-the-court issues.
He has, I'm not sure how many kids with how many wives, but he might have a record there as well.
I think it's what? I've seen a couple different reports. I don't think there's a straight number, but I did see 7 kids with 6 women. That's tough to keep track of.
That's tough to keep track.
2 kids with 1 woman, and it's tough to keep track of with that. I can't imagine any more than that.
Yeah, that's probably not a stat you're too proud of, or maybe you are. I don't know.
This is the Digits Dynasty Podcast, so we want to give you all the numbers in any aspect. He did have a couple kids that did play basketball. I think college was as far as they went. I feel like one went to Washington, but they
did play in
a little college ball. I think
college.
2 of the guys that played a little bit. And then, of course, you mentioned Bill Laimbeer, super nice guy, 4-time All-Star, 2-time NBA champion. He wore 40 for the entirety of his 20-plus seasons with the Pistons. But, was the ringleader of, like, the bad boys, Pistons, 80s, threw fists, elbows.
You said super nice guy.
That was a joke, all right?
Hey, off the court, I mean, this guy's like charity, foundations and never been in trouble. You never heard about him in the news. I don't think he's ever gone to jail.
He does turn on.
He never got a DUI.
Turn on the meanness come inside the court.
Hey, listen, you get it out between the lines. You can't be arrested for assault if you punch Larry Bird during the game. But, after the game, it's a different story.
And him and Dennis Rodman, they were on the same team. And
hard to believe those 2 guys on the same team. Definitely not 2 of the best guys, the classiest guys to ever play the game.
And Rodman, he said about Laimbeer, he said he was more than a thug, but that's what he'll be remembered for. But he's the all-time leading rebounder in Detroit Pistons history, 2-time champion. He was actually a very good player. I think 10,000 points, 10,000 rebounds in a career.
Yeah, and he led the league in rebounds one year as well. I mean, the guy was no slouch. He could put up, some really good numbers. 16 points a game, led the league in rebounds. He also averaged 3.5 fouls per game.
Wow.
Which, to put that in perspective, Draymond Green, who's probably considered, of today's game, the dirtiest player in the league.
Laimbeer.
He's at 2.9,
wow, which
is the most. The only 2 other guys to average that amount are Dennis Rodman and Ron Artest. So, you're just getting fouled if you're going down the lane. You got Rodman and Laimbeer. One of them's just fouling you on purpose.
I think he only missed like 9-10 games in like a 14-year stretch.
No
like
kidding.
He kept going out day in, day out and played hard.
Well, top 25 all time in fouls.
Wow.
You know who else is on that list? Number 40, Shawn Kemp. So I guess if you wear number 40,
watch out.
You're a bruiser. Famously fouled Larry Bird in the Eastern Conference Finals Game 3. You know, and then Bird throws the ball at him. But I think Bird got the last laugh because he went on in Game 5 to have 36. And I think in Game 6 he had 35, and they closed him out. And then in 87, Parrish had enough of Laimbeer's antics and pummeled him to the floor and gave him a couple good blows to the head, but no foul was called on the play. So I don't think the refs were feeling too sorry for old Billy.
They were all kind of tired of his crap.
I think the whole league was like, all right, Bill, you probably deserve that one. And, Robert Parrish, I think he was getting up there as well. He said, you know what, we'll give you that one, old Robbie.
And then not really in competition for the greatest 40, but also notable are the Zeller brothers, Cody, Luke, Tyler, who all are brothers who played in the NBA, all wore number 40 at some point in their career, and said they wore the number 40 to honor their grandfather who had won a high school state championship. But just a pretty cool story there. Not only all three guys making the NBA, but just three brothers making it to the NBA. It's also pretty impressive as well.
Yeah, that is impressive. I mean, Cody and Tyler, I think, in Carolina and Indiana, both had pretty good college careers. I didn't know about the third guy.
Yeah, none of them really are in contention for the top 40 of all time, or even top anything of all time. Maybe top Zeller of all time.
No, I think when it comes to basketball, it's Bill Laimbeer, it's Shawn Kemp, and then it's everybody else.
Yeah, and again, worth noting, Udonis, he just finally retired, I think in his 60th year.
I was going to say, he played 40 seasons and wore the number 40. I feel like that guy was in the league forever. He was old when he was on the Big Three, and I still turn around and turn on a game, and there's Udonis Haslem.
But he has 3 championships with the Heat.
All with the Heat now.
All with the Heat. His whole career
because he was with the first one with Shaq and D-Wade.
Yep, and then the other 2 with LeBron and company.
Okay.
But he went undrafted. Also, he is the leading rebounder in Heat history. Another 40, another solid rebounder.
Wow, so undrafted and then played all those years. Yeah, that's pretty cool that you can go undrafted and then have that long of a career.
He was a starter for most of that. I think with LeBron and Bosh and
D-Wade. He was a big part of that team, and especially from a camaraderie standpoint. I think he was a guy that kind of was a locker room guy as well.
And then in my research, I don't have a straight answer for you. Found Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, wore the number 40 for one game. There was a picture online. Tried to research, tried to figure out what the heck was going on there, but couldn't really find anything at all. But there was one game that he wore the number 40.
That's got to be a lost jersey story or someone forgotten jersey.
Someone wanted a jersey for their house.
Oh, a stolen jersey maybe.
Yeah, now you just go into the gift shop and you're like, hey, I need number 33.
Yeah, they've got like the actual authentic jerseys that, that they're wearing. So, yeah, it'd be a little bit easier to replace your lost jersey.
Yeah, that happens to LeBron today. I think they're able to come up with a 23 for him.
I think so.
Any other basketball guys on your list?
Nope.
In baseball, one of the first that comes to mind is Madison Bumgarner.
He had a pretty solid career.
3-time World Series champion.
No kidding.
2-time World Series MVP.
MVP? See, I think they should have given them to Buster Posey, behind the dish.
He did call those games.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure Bumgarner pitched in, some closeout games that were important and pitched well and, probably held him to just a couple runs at most. But, Buster Posey should have probably gotten those World Series MVPs.
He has 2,000 career strikeouts, much more dominant, obviously, with the Giants, but has spent the last couple years, and I think is still active with the Diamondbacks.
He's still playing.
So
they almost got one last year.
He wasn't on the playoff roster, though, this past year.
Oh, he wasn't.
But he did have a couple. I think he had 4 or 5 games during the regular season.
Do you still get a ring at that point?
I think so. I think it's up to the team, but I think
anyone that
if you
plays in a game gets a ring.
If you had any sort of impact to any game, whether that be one pitch or 1,000 innings, I think
Well, 4 or 5 games, I mean, that's like 2% of the season.
Yeah, but if you make the playoffs by 2 or 3 games, and those are wins, could be the difference maker right there.
Okay. I mean, I think they did barely make the playoffs and then went on a pretty good run. I don't know if they won the division. I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
You have been wrong before.
Rarely.
But he was on the 40-man roster.
So you'll get a ring. If you're on the 40-man roster, you get a ring. That's my rule. I don't know what the actual rule is, but...
And are you paying for those rings?
No.
Okay.
No, the billionaire owner.
Oh, okay. He also had 19 career home runs as a batter. It's pretty impressive.
You know what? I did know he was a pretty good hitter. You know, I wouldn't call him the greatest hitting pitcher of all time, but he was pretty good.
And then he had a nice long career, and I feel like you think that he was so dominant for so long, but he only has 134 career wins. So 2,000 strikeouts, 134 wins in his career.
That's not very many, but I don't think many guys go past the 6th inning. How many innings do you have to pitch to get a win? 5? 6?
Yeah, 5 to be official.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, the first sign of trouble in the 3rd inning, and you're going to the bullpen.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, people getting 300 wins is, I don't know if that's happening anymore.
I don't think so. You don't pitch, you don't start as many games, you don't go as late in as many games.
It's like 200 is going to be a stretch.
I think so.
Rick Sutcliffe, he wore number 40.
Oh, Rick Sutcliffe. He pitched the first night game at Wrigley Field.
Really?
Game starts, and obviously Wrigley's got to be jacked. It's the first night game, you know, so everybody showed up after work. And on the 4th pitch of the game, gave up a home run.
Ooh.
To the Phillies, Phil Bradley. So, you know, rough start to the game. He also had some pretty epic games pitched. He pitched one game where, you know, he gave up some runs, but then came back and hit a home run to get the win. You know, famously, he was going up against the Reds, where he gave up back-to-back home runs to, you know, Eric Davis and Paul O'Neill. Manager comes out to the mound, and you can hear him yell. He says, "I know I gave up back-to-back home runs, but I got everything under control. Tell Don Zimmer to go sit down and be quiet." And the coach says, I know you got it under control, but I just want to give the fireworks guy a little more time to reload. So I'm not sure how much he appreciated that, but a pretty funny story.
Yeah, he did pretty good. He was the Rookie of the Year, won the Cy Young.
Yeah, I mean, in typical Cubs fashion, I'm sure they traded him away. Played with the Cardinals, too. Had a pretty good career. I don't know who else he played for, but I'm sure he was a journeyman at the end.
The Cubs, Orioles, Cardinals over the course of his career. Then, of course, we got Bartolo Colón. Big Sexy.
Big Sexy, that's right. The ageless wonder.
He's still pitching professionally right now.
Not in the MLB.
No. There's that the new Baseball United League out in the Middle East.
Well, they got money, so.
Yeah, he was a 2nd-round draft pick when they were picking him. He plays currently for the Karachi Monarchs, whose manager is Miguel Tejada, whose GM is Adrian Beltre. So they just kind of took everyone.
Yeah, they're paying. Did you say the Karachi?
Karachi.
Oh, don't mispronounce that one.
No, I got it right.
And do you think 2nd-round draft pick, do you think that's better than what he was originally drafted?
I'd have to assume so. I think the competition or the pool of players that he's picked from is probably a little less.
Yeah.
In the first inning he pitched, which was the first ever inning of the Baseball United League, he retired the side, which included Robinson Cano, which is pretty impressive at 50 years old.
That is impressive. I mean, they got some pretty good players over there.
And then we just talked about Madison Bumgarner, who had 134 career wins, but Bartolo, he has the most career wins by a Latin American-born pitcher at 247.
247? More than Pedro?
More than Pedro, more than Juan Marichal. Yeah, Pedro only has 219 wins, and then Bartolo, 247, 2,500 career strikeouts, and not in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I'm not sure he's a Hall of Famer.
In the most recent year in the Hall of Fame vote, he got 5 votes, which was not the 5% that he needs to go to the next round. So I don't know that he'll ever make it. But those are some pretty good stats.
I think if you do that for one team, how many teams did he play for?
10 teams.
Okay, so I think if you have that career with one team, especially a large market team, you're in the Hall of Fame.
It's true. He hit some of those large markets over the course of his travels. He was with the Sox. He was in L.A. He was in New York a couple times. Cleveland's not the biggest market.
I mean, do you think he goes around saying he's better than Pedro Martinez with that many wins?
I think I would.
I mean, I would too. But I'm still not going to put him in the Hall of Fame. You got to do it for one team. If you're that good, they're not getting rid of you.
That is true.
How many strikeouts?
2,500 strikeouts.
2,500? I mean, that's a lot, but I don't think that's half of Ryan.
Yeah, Nolan Ryan had a lot of strikeouts.
Did you know that Nolan Ryan had 200 games with 10 or more strikeouts? And if you took away all those games of 10 or more strikeouts, he probably still has more strikeouts than Bartolo Colón, who pitched for like 20 years.
Nolan Ryan pitched from the 60s. I think he was drafted in like 66. He had a career up until the 90s. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we should have mentioned him earlier in the show. Over 40. I think he threw a no-hitter over 40.
I think he threw a 2, actually.
Never won a Cy Young.
He did not. That's crazy.
Which is dumb. Dumb.
And so Bartolo Colón does have a Cy Young. So if we're comparing Cy Youngs...
You're not comparing Nolan Ryan and Bartolo
to Hall
Colón.
of Fame. I don't know that Nolan Ryan should be in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
That was a joke. That was a joke.
Yeah.
What I don't get with the Hall of Fame, Nolan Ryan was not a first ballot unanimous Hall of Famer. I think he had like 98% of the vote. But how are you not voting for Nolan Ryan to be in the Hall of Fame if you have that vote?
I completely agree. I can't stand the Hall of Fame voters in baseball and why they do that. But there are certain guys, Nolan Ryan being one, that are just in the Hall of Fame. There shouldn't even be a vote.
Well, then we go back to side note with Bill Laimbeer. He's not in the Hall of Fame. And you think like he had a pretty decent career and is probably one of the top 150 to 200 basketball players of all time. But you think his attitude and...
So perhaps that's what prevented him from getting in?
And to not vote for him because he's just maybe not a nice guy.
I don't think that's a reason not to put somebody in.
Shouldn't be. Looking up the stats here, Nolan Ryan has 5,714 career strikeouts, which is above double what Bartolo Colón has.
Who's in second? Randy Johnson?
Randy Johnson. He's like 4,700.
1,000 less? Who's in third?
Roger Clemens?
I don't know.
You're going to make me look it up.
Well, the stats team, get to work.
That's me. I get paid double for this, right?
Put the Pop-Tarts down.
Nolan Ryan has 5,714. Randy Johnson, 4,875. Roger Clemens third with 4,672.
Okay. I mean, that's an unbreakable stat. I mean, that's an unbreakable record. No one's getting that many strikeouts. Just the way the game is played, it's not happening.
If we're not hitting 300 wins, that's not a chance we're hitting, I'd say even 3,000 strikeouts.
No, absolutely not. But, I mean, the game is played a little differently now where you either hit a home run or you strike out. So, you know, I feel like back in that time, too, so many more guys were hitting for average, which makes it all that more impressive that he's able to get that many strikeouts against guys that are just trying to get on base because he played in the National League for a long time. And National League known for their small ball.
So I'm looking up Nolan Ryan with the strikeouts here. First picture that comes up is Nolan Ryan versus Robin Ventura.
Poor Robin Ventura. I think he's over 40 in that picture as well.
He was.
I mean, maybe the greatest player over 40. He's in the conversation with Brady, I think.
Put him up there with Brady.
Yeah.
So side note about that game, Nolan Ryan got Ventura in a headlock, got 6-7 solid hits in before Ivan Rodriguez was able to pull Ventura away from Ryan. And Ryan stated afterwards, he's like, this is the same thing that I do on my steers that I have to brand on my Texas ranch.
You talk about humiliating.
And then Ventura, he was ejected from the game. Ryan, who stood his ground on the mound for the whole time, was not ejected from that game.
So not only did he throw at him, he beat him up and then got to pitch the next batter while Ventura had to...
And then proceeded to pitch a hitless game the rest of the way.
That's awesome.
Don't do that again here. Just finish the game. Be respectful.
What a legend. He's only got one title, I think, though. Was it with the Mets, maybe?
69, right?
Was he on the 69 Mets?
He was on that team.
Okay.
You like Nolan Ryan, don't you?
A big Nolan Ryan fan. I've got many, many, many Nolan Ryan baseball cards.
Wait till we get to...
34 with
30,
the Rangers.
30, I think, and 34.
30, I don't know. He's a legend. He's got a great documentary out, too. Highly recommend. I think it's called The Ryan Express.
Yeah, I think you were just trying to talk about him a lot because he is over the age of 40. Just trying to pull 40 more into this.
There's certain guys I love talking about. Nolan Ryan, Larry Bird. You know, you you guys are going to notice a theme with who my favorites are, but they're legends. They have good stories.
That's key. Key when you're the Digits Dynasty podcast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We'll always tie it back to some sort of number. And Nolan Ryan has so many records. We could have a whole show on just Nolan Ryan's records.
That might be it.
Maybe. Well, we're going to run out of numbers at some point. We're going to have to talk about numbers.
Just talk straight numbers. We'll start talking about 5,714. We'll do a whole podcast about that.
I'd like to, see if we can name 10 really good pitchers and still not have 5,714.
Oh, well, I'm going to start with Randy Johnson.
No, that's not how the game works.
Yeah, you wonder how many pitchers that are current that you'd have to put together.
Right. Like, could you put together...
Like if you got, the top active strikeout leaders currently.
Yeah. How far down the list would you get before you were able to add them up to Nolan Ryan?
Back to Bartolo. One year, I think it was 2002, he won 10 games for the Indians, got traded at the All-Star break, went to the Expos, got 10 more wins in a different league.
He's got to be the only one to get 10 wins for two different teams, two different leagues, right?
Definitely two different leagues. I'd imagine two teams as well. He was also the last player to play for the Expos, the Montreal Expos, for those that...
Like the last player ever to walk off the field?
I think the last person who was on... He was on the roster and then played a bunch more years. And
the last one to retire.
Last active, yeah.
Who had played for the Expos.
That's correct.
Man, that Expos team, was he on the team with Pedro at the same time? They were loaded. Guerrero and...
The strike season?
I firmly believe they would have won it all. I mean, it would have been an upset had they not. I think they were well ahead of the league in wins. And then the strike. That sucks.
Yeah, it's too bad. Dennis Eckersley, he wore 43 for his Hall of Fame career. But there was one game that he wore the number 40. He had just been pitching with the Red Sox, got traded to the Cubs for Bill Buckner, number 6, and then went to his locker. Number 40 is waiting for him there. He's like, hey, I'm a 43 guy. One of his teammates, Don Chaliz, he had the number 43. And so Eckersley wore 40 for one game, got a complete game loss against the Reds. But then after the game, Chaliz got lit up, and his only start of the season got demoted. And then Eckersley got back to the number 43, where he ultimately had a pretty good career as the number 43.
Yeah, he had a good career. I mean, unless you're talking to Kirk Gibson, who, famously hit a nice little bomb on, one leg, no back, broken fingers.
Yeah, I think if he didn't have a home run, I don't know that he would have made it to first base if he just had a normal hit.
Oh, man. He was in bad shape. I don't even think they were expecting him to play at all. And
well, that was a pinch hit.
And I'm sure it's one of those where it's like, hey, coach, put me up there. I'll hit one for you.
I think he won the MVP that year.
I mean, he just on that one play should have.
I think it was basically like a just arm home run. Like he wasn't stepping into that. It was just, I'm going to muscle this thing out.
Oh, you watched the replay, and yeah, and if Eckersley didn't throw as hard as he did, probably doesn't get it out of the, just that the energy that was, created from the high speed pitch, but. The famous fist bump going around second. I'm sure Eckersley loves that replay. Eckersley did get 2. Did he win 2 with the A's? He was in the building during the earthquake. That was during the World Series in Oakland.
Yeah, I think that was the year he won the World Series, that 89.
That was the earthquake year?
Yeah, that was his only one. He just won.
So they won one?
Just won one.
Okay.
The BART series.
The what series?
BART, the Bay Area Regional Transport, BART.
No one calls it that.
I just did. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of support from
our West Coast fans.
From our West Coast fans when we check our email tomorrow. like the Subway series in 2000. Like it's the same thing. When it was.
Did you just throw that little New York accent in there?
Hey.
Just the same
Forget
thing.
about
Exactly. Because everyone talks about that Bay Area. Transit, whatever you call it, the BART.
BART.
Yeah, everyone talks about that, that system of transportation. It's the earthquake series.
You can call it that too, I guess, if you want to be that person. Carlton Fisk was another Hall of Famer who wore the number 40 for a short period of time. As a rookie, played for 2 games, no hits, no runs, 2 strikeouts, and then, of course, later on switched to 72 and 27 over his career with the White Sox and Red Sox. and did a little bit better with those numbers than he did with the number 40.
What number was he wearing when he was waving that home run to stay fair?
It was 27 in 1975.
Yeah.
Game 6.
Love that.
We talked NASCAR a little bit last week with Dale Earnhardt being our greatest number 3 of all time.
Yeah, I'm still struggling with that one.
You were the one who was pushing for it.
Yeah, when we hung that Dale Earnhardt jacket on the wall in that number 3 spot, it was hard not to hang the Babe Ruth jersey, just because,
It's only 6 years he played with the number 3.
I know, but that Babe Ruth number 3, is there a more recognizable jersey in sports? Maybe Jordan, but oh man, you don't even need to put a last name on it.
I think that we've already sent that one to the printers. It's already been published.
I told you I'm struggling. I'm struggling with it, and we got some mail on that one too.
We did get a little mail. Maybe we'll do a revisit in a little bit. I don't think we're changing it though.
All right, so Babe Ruth is going to stay in.
He can stay number 2.
All right,
he's number 1 in a lot of aspects of his life.
All right, so we're talking about Sterling Marlin though, NASCAR number 40, this silver bullet. He drove that Coors Light silver car. I love the story of Sterling Marlin in the Daytona 500. He's leading the race, has the fastest car by far. Really is probably going to go on to win the race, but his fender was rubbing up against his tire, and there was a red flag. So instead of waiting for the red flag to be over and dipping into the pits real quick, he decided, you know what, now is a good time to get out of the car and go fix it. And that's against the rules. So he got moved to the back of the pack and, not surprisingly, did not win the Daytona 500.
Do you think he had any WD-40 in his car? Just lube it up and keep going. Maybe a little duct tape would have worked some wonders.
Maybe. But yeah, he's got out and tried to fix it. They were like, whoa, I don't think so.
With the Daytona 500, he was the one who bumped Earnhardt and resulted in the crash of Dale Earnhardt when he passed away. And I'm sure he thinks about that a lot and got a lot of hate mail. And I know Dale Earnhardt Jr., Michael Waltrip kind of stuck up for him in the media. And I don't think it ever really went away. And I imagine he got a lot of hate for that over the years, which is just tough because I'm sure they were friends. You're competing and to cause the death of a friend and fellow NASCAR driver. It's got to be tough.
Yeah, that is tough. And, I'd imagine it was, pretty hard to get out and get back in the car and do it again. But, that's pretty unfortunate. With as many guys as Earnhardt wrecked, and for him to be the one to go down like that, that's tough for Sterling Marlin. And to send him hate mail, when I'm sure the other drivers had nothing but support. Can you imagine sending hate mail to an athlete? Get a hold of yourself, people.
Peyton Hillis, Madden cover athlete, 2012, number 40.
Was he like the main cover? Was that the year they went regional?
I think it was just straight up.
Oh, did he get hit with the curse?
I don't think he's bad as others. He also shouldn't have really been in that position. He had a pretty solid year with the Browns. He had, I think, 1,200 yards rushing, 500 yards receiving. And then the year after that, Madden decided to have a March Madness-esque bracket. They picked one player from each team. And I think the Browns faithful just came through and they said, our guy is making the cover. But he beat out Ray Rice, who was at the time a great guy, great running back. Michael Vick, who I think was in his comeback tour.
Probably should have been Vick. But Vick and Rice, maybe they made the right call by not putting them on the cover.
The Super Bowl MVP that year was Aaron Rodgers he beat out,
I'm not sure Peyton Hillis was the best player to put on the cover. 1,200 yards and 1,200 and 500, that's a great year. But
yeah, the other guys who are making the cover are just consistent stars in the NFL. Brady's, Mahomes, Eddie George was on there. Michael Vick, who was very good, he was on there.
Where was Manning? Is that not a Manning year?
Talking about good guys. I know he goes up there with Nolan Ryan and Larry Bird with you.
Indeed.
That's true. He did not make a Madden cover. He probably didn't want that curse.
They couldn't pay him enough. Very Cleveland-esque to vote someone in. I feel like the Cleveland faithful, some of the most loyal fans in sports.
Slight hit with the Madden curse, had some physical trouble, contract disputes, strep throat, injured hamstring.
Strep throat came up on the injury report?
I think when you're going for when you're trying to get your stats for what the Madden curse is, you gotta get everything.
I'm not sure Vince Lombardi is going to hear someone coming in and being like, Coach Lombardi, I've got strep throat.
I don't think I can play today.
I can't go today.
He did miss a lot of games all season. Never really got back to that 1 year where he had his kind of breakout year. He was hard to tackle that year, though. If you had him in fantasy, you were probably doing well in your league.
I do remember he was putting up some pretty good numbers.
Mike Allstott, another solid running back.
The A train.
71 career touchdowns with the Bucks. 6-time Pro Bowler. I think one of the better, if you're going to rank fullbacks, he's got to be top couple.
Oh, yeah. Him, Lorenzo Neal. Naming fullbacks gets tough.
That was a short list there.
I think Lorenzo Neal was the guy on the Chargers, right?
Yeah.
Who ran ahead of LT.
Yep.
Trying to think of other fullbacks. I can't name too many, but Mike Allstott, 71 touchdowns with the Bucks. That's got to be up there. That's got to be close to a team record.
He has the most rushing touchdowns in Bucks history. Second most touchdowns overall. Behind who?
Work done?
Not running back, just overall touchdowns.
In Bucks history?
Bucks history.
Number
13.
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans.
Hey, solid career.
He was a good one. Up there with, I'd say, Calvin Johnson, Randy Moss. Just a long career. I don't think he's gotten less than 1,000 yards in any one of his seasons.
I mean, that's impressive. I don't think people are putting him in the Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson conversation.
Not yet. He's just not as, I would say not as flashy, but he's kind of like a quiet, does his job, catches 1,000 yards every year.
Not a lot of flashy celebrations.
He'll get 100 yards here, 150 here.
I wonder how he felt about Antonio Brown, because he was on that team.
Yeah, they were together
when Antonio Brown was like, you know what, I'm going to take all my clothes off and quit football during this game here. Mike Evans probably like, yeah, that's not my style, man. I'm going to go catch another touchdown.
I saw him. I was at a game where he had 200 yards receiving and had 3 touchdowns. Mike Evans.
Big Blair at the Bucks game, huh?
I think you were there too.
Oh, yeah, I was.
Actually, in that same game, we saw Tom Brady. He became the oldest person to ever score a rushing touchdown. I think he beat his own record, but
yeah,
he currently has.
He had a big game. I think he had over 400 yards that game.
Yeah,
413. And you know who else we saw at that game?
Saw Big Nasty.
Big Nasty, the Bucks faithful,
the Hall of Fame fan from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, we were at that game.
That was his last game.
They gave him Super Bowl tickets and put him in the Bucks Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he.
Which I didn't know
existed?
Fans, were given that honor, but he cried.
He did.
A single tear came down from Big Nasty's eyes.
He didn't want to get made fun of there. Gale Sayers.
Okay, now we're talking.
The youngest NFL Hall of Fame inductee at 34 years old. He only played 68 games in his career.
How many touchdowns?
His rookie year, he put up 22 touchdowns in a 14-game season. In one of those games, he had 6 touchdowns. He had 4 rushing touchdowns, caught a touchdown pass, and then returned a punt 85 yards for a touchdown. And then he got taken out. So he wasn't done. The game was there was still time on the clock. He could have had more. And that's still a current NFL record of most touchdowns in a single game.
Pretty impressive. I mean, the guy is, I think he's definitely the best football player to wear number 40.
Yeah, not a ton of competition there.
39 rushing, 9 receiving, 6 returning.
It's pretty impressive, pretty well-rounded.
Actually, 8 returning if you count 2 of his punt returns, and 1 passing touchdown.
Ooh.
58 touchdowns total. And how many games? 68 games?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's doing work. And he's got a movie made.
It's true. Brian's song.
His buddy Brian Piccolo. So he's a good friend, too. He's just all around. In the Hall of Fame at 34, though, huh?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Do you have to wait? What, do you have to wait 5 years?
Yeah.
And he played 6 seasons?
He didn't have that long a career.
Why did he retire?
A couple injuries, I think.
Injuries?
In the early 70s.
Okay.
Which at some point, I guess you just have to, if you just already have that Hall of Fame career, you don't really need to destroy yourself to keep going.
Yeah, but probably didn't make a ton of money, playing back when he did and for only as short as he did. It's not like he had a opportunity to renew a bunch of contracts.
Yeah, hopefully he made some money after the fact as a Hall of Famer.
Well, I think he's no doubt the best football player to wear 40. I mean, I love me some Mike Allstott, but he's not in the conversation with Gale Sayers. Is Allstott in the Hall of Fame?
I don't believe he is.
I don't think so.
Gale Sayers, he famously said, give me 18 inches of daylight. That's all I need. A ton of touchdowns, rushing yards. I never saw him play.
What are you saying?
I'm just saying I'm younger than people who saw him play in the 60s.
I thought you were going to start making old jokes coming at me.
You said it. I didn't say that.
Hey, I put the shield up quick. I can see him coming from a mile away. My vision may be getting bad, but I can still see it coming.
And only one more guy I had on my list that maybe isn't the greatest 40 stat-wise, but Pat Tillman, he wore the number 40. Just being a great human, forgoing the NFL to serve his country after 9/11. Really good football player for Arizona State. Did play his whole career with the Arizona Cardinals, staying in Arizona. And even at one point in his career, turned down a 5-year, $9 million contract to play for the Rams, just out of his loyalty for the Cardinals.
Yeah, Pat Tillman, I mean, what a legend in his own right. And, now they have the Pat Tillman Award. I know they have the Walter Payton Award, but there's also the Pat Tillman Award, which...
Yeah, I think that's mainly for college, but it's given to a player who best exemplifies character, intelligence, sportsmanship, and service. Celebrates a student-athlete, outstanding achievement and conduct in and out of the game. And can't think of a better guy to have an award named after.
Cannot think of a better guy to have that award named after. And, he's missed, and served our country and left the prime of his career to do so.
He is the Mike O'Callahan, Pat Tillman Memorial Bridge that spans the Colorado River. I got a big statue of him there. But yeah, just a great man, great football player. Now we got to move on to figure out who is number one, the number 140 of all time. Who's your basketball player? Who's the basketball guy that's moving on kind of to the finals?
I don't know. I mean, it's Kemp or Laimbeer, and Laimbeer's got the 2 titles. He's got the rebounds. He's got the fouls. Kemp's got the style. Laimbeer, Kemp, Laimbeer, Finkel and Einhorn and Finkel. I got to go Kemp.
Yeah, I think that's a solid choice. I'd go with that as well. Football, I think you already mentioned it.
It's Gale Sayers. It's not even close. And then I'm going to throw Cody Zeller in there too.
We've already moved on. We already passed basketball. And then baseball, I'm not even asking you. I'm moving on. Bartolo Colón.
The Bart series. The Bart Man.
The Bart Man. Big sexy. Moving on. So
Okay.
I think we're going to be, our top 40 of all time is going to be between Bartolo Colón, Shawn Kemp, and Gale Sayers.
It sounds like you have one in mind that you want.
I have one in mind, and I think I'm just going to, I don't want to be mean to Shawn Kemp, but I think I'm going to take him out of the running for the top 2.
I can be okay with that, and I'm still not sold on him over Laimbeer. But okay, Kemp, you're gone, man. Go take care of your kids.
You're welcome.
So Gale Sayers or Bartolo Colón?
Yeah, and I think you don't just shut it down yet, all right? Bartolo Colón, get on the train. Oldest guy to hit his first career home
No more
run.
room on the train with him on it.
Easy. We're going stats only. We're not going size. Oldest guy to hit his first career home run. Have you seen that video? 42-year-old guy.
Yeah.
Nice, simple swing, line drive home run, not breaking any 40-time records running around the bases.
Teammates couldn't have been happier for him.
I think they all ran to the dugout, gave him the silent treatment, but couldn't stop laughing because obviously that's just hilarious.
Man, and you got to respect a guy that he's just out there having fun.
I think it probably took him like 25, 30 seconds to run around the bases there.
But yeah, it took him a while, but he just enjoyed playing the game. And that's a lot of fun to watch.
Well, then he has that other viral clip where he's little trickle to the first base line. He runs over, fields the ball, kind of running past the foul line, throws it behind his back, gets the guy out.
You don't make those kinds of plays if you're just not out there having fun.
I know. He's...
guys that take the game too serious are afraid to make plays like that.
He's playing softball, and everyone else is playing Major League Baseball.
Exactly.
So if we're talking about the greatest 40 of all time, who epitomizes the number 40, just the number 40 more than some guy who's going to wear it at 11 different locations over the course of his career? Gale Sayers wore it for 6 years. Nothing against Gale Sayers, but if you're going to wear it and you're going to continue to wear it, show what a great number this is. Continue to win games, get the most wins of any Latin American-born player. Keep playing into your 50s. It's hard to say that this is not the greatest number 40 of all time. He's played like 3 times as long as Sayers.
I think it's hard for you to say. Now, which jersey are we hanging up? Are we hanging up 11 jerseys on the wall?
No, we'll get one jersey. Maybe we can get like some sort of like... I'll get my
stitched together
I'll get
11
my
jerseys
out, and we'll create this.
Like
this
when Mom
11.
wears the jersey to the game
don't bring
with
up
2
Mom
different
and Kelsey.
teams.
Don't do it.
I'm not going to talk about them.
Thank you. Let's move on.
But number 40 Bears jersey would look pretty darn good on that wall.
The Bears jersey is pretty iconic. But how about a number 40 Expos jersey?
Love me some Expos, and I'm going Gale Sayers.
I know you are.
Well, where does that leave us? We going for the fan vote?
We could do a fan vote. We could do a 40-yard dash race.
Between Bartolo Colón and Gale Sayers?
Oh, that's not fair to Bartolo. I was thinking me and you, but rest in peace, Gale Sayers. But I think Bartolo's winning that race.
I don't know. I think it still might be close.
Do either have a title?
I don't think the Bears, were they NFL? They didn't have Super Bowls back then.
No, it was into the 60s, I think, the first couple years of the 60s. Yeah, he doesn't have one.
The
Colón
Super Bowl didn't
have
start
one.
until...
66?
Okay. Well, I don't know if that's right, but the Packers won the first couple, and the Chiefs were in there, and...
The Jets won one.
Jets beat the Colts.
11 teams showing off the number 40. And a guy, like you said, having fun. Never any bad stories about this guy.
No, there aren't. Okay.
Are you caving?
You're persistent right now.
Still in the majors at 45. Gale Sayers was done in the Hall of Fame by 35.
And Bartolo Colón, when did he go to the Hall of Fame?
We've never been one to tie greatest numbers to Hall of Fame careers.
Oh, really?
So are you saying when we get to the number 24, 25, we're talking about Barry Bonds, he's not going to be in that
Listen, that's a whole nother conversation. Bonds not in the Hall of Fame is a crime.
21, Roger Clemens, he's not going to make that conversation?
Listen, I can't stand Roger Clemens. I don't care about him.
I get that, but we're talking stats.
If you're putting David Ortiz in the Hall of Fame, how are you leaving Barry Bonds out and saying it's because of steroids?
I think it's true. I don't have a vote for the Hall of Fame, so you don't need to get mad at me about that.
I'm just mad in general.
Oh, I know.
But yes, Barry Bonds is going to be in the conversation, even though he's technically not in the Hall of Fame. How do you not have 2 of the best players of all time in the Hall of Fame? What a stupid Hall of Fame it is.
It just doesn't mean anything anymore then.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Because everyone knows Pete Rose is one of the greatest hitters of all time, and Barry Bonds is one of the greatest home run hitters of all time.
Yeah, now, granted, I will say that he probably has more home runs than he would have gotten had he not done steroids.
But we were talking the 40-40 club earlier. He had a great career before that became a thing in his repertoire.
Yeah, and I can't wait to talk about the stats when we get to 25.
Oh, he has some crazy
with
stats.
The walks and the on-base percentage.
I think he's still walking.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And Pete Rose, another guy. His hits, no one's touching that.
Over 4,000.
It's like Nolan Ryan and strikeout. No one's touching that.
And for all those guys to play well into their 40s and still be at the top of their game it really is incredible.
Yeah. So back to the topic at hand.
We got to get back on task.
Which is you all over Bartolo Colón right now. Really selling it. And I mean, I am. I'm getting tired. I'm getting hungry. And it sounds like you could go on for days backing Bartolo Colón.
Are we picking Bartolo?
No, I'm not.
I do think it's tough to go against Gale Sayers. The Hall of Fame, I think, that's kind of where I'm leaning towards. Gale Sayers is probably a better 40 overall.
I'm just thinking that if Bartolo Colón is with one team, no matter what team it is, and he has that career with one team, I don't think it's a conversation. I think he would have it locked up. But I think Gale Sayers, even in the short amount of time that he played, he wore the number 40 better than anyone else. It was more than one season. It was more than 2 or 3. He did it for 6 years, which is a significant amount of time.
He was pretty impressive for those 6 years.
I think pretty impressive is an understatement. You know, I question some of the teams that he went up against. Like after 5 touchdowns, are you not like being told by the coach, hey, there's a guy out there, he wears number 40, and he's not too bad.
Maybe the jersey was just really dirty that day, and they couldn't make out the 40. Yeah, he scored one more after that.
Like you said, what'd you say? Give me 18 inches and I'll give you a touchdown, or what'd you say?
That's all he needs.
He doesn't tell lies. Say less, as the kids would say.
Are you?
I'm cool. I'm hip.
You know what the kids are saying these days?
Yeah, I'm in tune with the kids. My kid says no. That's about it.
I think we can raise the Gale Sayers jersey to the rafters.
My man.
We'll put him on the board.
Okay.
Don't forget this.
Hey, listen.
When we're waffling over the number 71, which I can't think of any 71s right now, I might I'll say, you remember when I leaned your way for Gale Sayers.
Listen, we have our honorable mention room. There's 12 hangers in there. Babe Ruth is hanging, and we'll put 11 Bartolo Colón jerseys in there as well.
Right next to Babe Ruth right now. That's going to be a big wall.
What do you mean it's going to be? It exists
it doesn't.
in our studio.
Oh.
We have a wall. We have 99 spots on the wall.
Not 100? We don't get the 0, 00?
Did somebody wear 100?
No, we go with 0.
Oh, okay. 0.
Oh, that's in our mix, too.
Okay. I mean, I don't know who wore 0. They just now started allowing it in the NBA.
Agent 0, Gilbert Arenas.
Give me a break.
Another great dad. I think he's like $30,000 a month in child support.
Brought a gun to the game.
Yeah, we're just talking on the field stuff here, guys.
Oh,
we don't. Sorry. We can mention the other stuff, but that shouldn't affect your.
If it's
your parenting,
Digits Dynasty, he brought a 22 to the game.
All right, Gale Sayers, greatest number 40 of all time. Let's put it on the wall. All right, let's spin the wheel. We'll see what we got coming on next week. Ooh, 26.
26. Okay. From the 40-man roster down to the 26-man roster.
That's pretty good.
I like it. It's meant to be.
Any 26s that jump in right away?
Wade Boggs.
Maybe we'll bring some beers on.
More than 26.
Oh, there'll be way more than 26 if we're talking Boggs. I was thinking Clinton Portis. I feel like he's the first one that's coming to mind for football.
Yeah, Clinton Portis.
Ooh, Rod Woodson, too.
Sneaky good. Sneaky good. I think we have a lot of Rod Woodson stories out there because he played for so long and for so many great teams.
Yeah, I think he was with the Ravens when they won it.
Yeah, and he's got more stats than I think you would expect.
Kyle Korver in basketball, three-point shoot.
An assassin.
Sharpshooter, three-pointer.
You know, you said Clinton Portis. I think Sean Taylor wore 26 at Miami.
Oh. Yeah, I think Clinton Portis, I know for the Broncos, he probably wore that in memory.
Oh, yeah, he was on the Broncos, too.
Probably wore that in memory of Sean Taylor.
I don't think Sean Taylor was dead yet.
Oh. But we'll find out next week. where we'll do a little deep dive into the number 26. There we have the greatest number 40 of all time in our books, Gale Sayers. Write us, let us know if you agree, disagree, if there's any players that we missed. Our email address is digitsdynastypodcast@gmail.com. Next week, we're going to be looking at the number 26. If there's any players that are not to be left off the list, any stories that need to be told about players who wore the number 26, the email address again is digitsdynastypodcast@gmail.com. I think there might be some people out there that are upset that Bill Laimbeer isn't making it a little bit higher on our list.
Oh, I know we're going to get some flack for that one, you know. But hey, we make the call, and we had to make the call.
Did you ever play Super Nintendo as a kid? Do you ever play in 1999, they came out with the Bill Laimbeer Combat Basketball?
But that's awesome.
The game takes place in the year 2031. Bill Laimbeer has become the commissioner of a basketball league, has fired the referees, created a style of play without rules, no fouls, use of weapons is perfectly legal.
Hey, I gotta go play this game. This sounds fun.
Basically his NBA career.
I think I only had one game on Super Nintendo, and that was Mario Kart.
Yeah, that's the only game that needed to be.
Troy Aikman football, I think, was in the rotation, but mostly Mario Kart.
Excited about 26 for next week, though.
26 will be good.
Thank you for listening, and please join us again next week as we count down another number on the list. Have a nice one. There were a couple other times where there was two teams from the same metropolitan area. Cubs, White Sox had a couple, 1906, 1944. St. Louis Cardinals, St. Louis Browns, they had a little World Series battle.
What year was that? 1831?